Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the CPO Strategy Podcast. As always, I'm Sean Parch, and today we'll be joined by Fadi El Mouallem, a global procurement executive with over 20 years of experience in the industry. He'll be talking about talent management today and how procurement can retain good people inside the industry. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to the CPO Strategy Podcast.
Hello, Fadi, and welcome to the CPO Strategy Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing well, Sean. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's a pleasure. And as a way of introducing yourself, and I know you're a procurement executive with over 20 years of experience, I'm keen to find out a little bit more about your journey and what that really looks like and sort of why you decided that this was the place for you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to chat. It's interesting. I'll tell you a little bit how I got into procurement. My background is started in architecture, and I'm an architect by trade and training. And Really, architecture gave me the opportunity to kind of get into the real estate cost estimating, cost engineering space. And that's how I interacted with procurement, doing RFPs and responding to RFPs. I was on the supplier side, basically. And I saw that vast space where lots of decisions are made and a lot of engagements and interaction. So I was even more interested to get into that, and that was my next job as a procurement manager for a real estate development company, where I kind of balanced both my business side and design and architectural real estate side, and I kind of lived both passions. And you know, uh, my next job was in tech, and that's how I started in this space more deeply on the procurement sourcing side.
And what is it about procurement that you particularly like? Is there anything in particular that really sort of stands out for you as to what you really thrive on and really sort of passionate about?
Absolutely. I think the dynamics of the space, like you don't go to college to study procurement or sourcing. There's like it's yeah, there are supply chain courses and classes and programs, but a lot of people they come from procurement to procurement from different places. And it's evolving space. It's very dynamic and you can be as creative as you want to be. And
Hmm.
that's what really drives me to procurement because it's not that static as a lot of people think. It's actually very dynamic space.
A lot of people say that they end up there, don't they? They sort of nobody, as you've just mentioned it there. They don't grow up. Nobody grows up and thinks, I'm going to go into procurement, do they? They sort of just end up there. Was that something you agree with?
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people they come to procurement out of either curiosity or because they felt that the job is interesting to them and they want to try it out, and they ended up there for many years and they make a career out of it.
What do you make of the space today? There are so many sort of challenges today. There are so many complexities and changes that have happened in procurement. If we were having this conversations maybe 10 years ago, maybe not even that, even 5 years ago, you'd probably say something very, very different. But what do you think the space looks like today in 2023?
I think the space is getting more interesting. Viewing all the challenges we've had in the last 2 3 years, pandemic and inflation and all the supply chain issues. I think that brought procurement to the front, to the top of mind, into the boardroom discussions. Now, C levels they bring procurement into the picture, which is great. That's what we want. We want procurement to be more strategic. We want to be part of the decision making, and we want to add value to drive the company to the next level during those tough times. Coupled with all the innovation technology that are happening, which are helping procurement in a big way to become more strategic and more interesting. And we'll talk a little bit more if you'd like about that space.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I spoke to an executive a couple of weeks ago, and they said that they've never spoken to their CEO as much as they have in the last sort of year. The sort of 3 or 4 years before that. Because of sort of how the space has been. So many challenges. They've had nothing. They've had to have that seat at the table, as you say. It's um,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see, if you look at any CEOs, they're top of mind, or CFOs, you always find inflation, supply chain challenges in their top list, and it's never been there before.
mm.
That's their concern. Even supplier risk sometimes now it's becoming even how you partner with suppliers and how you gauge the risk, because that's impacting their businesses big time.
Perfect. And today, what do you think about talent management? There's been such a an emphasis on people, rightfully so, because of, as we've just mentioned, the challenges that have happened. And seeing particularly in the COVID times of how remote working affects people. And I just wondered what you sort of make of talent management, perhaps today in procurement, but maybe generally as well, and sort of why you think it's so important that procurement is attracting the right people.
That's a great question, and I think talent is always has been and will become even more so the utmost importance for any executive, not just procurement, but procurement in particular. Um First, because of the transient effect that's happening in industry, right? There's a lot of people moving around, and for many reasons, the pandemic has forced it in a way. Whether working from anywhere, working from home, coming back to the office in a hybrid model, and now the accessibility of talent is different. Um, so I think there will be a lot of focus on how you can attract those talents into the industry in general, not just procurement, but procurement is one of them, and how you can develop and retain those talents for the long run. Because it's very costly for any organization to keep treating on talents and keep bringing new talents and training them and losing them again. That's one element. The other element is the new gen, kind of the generation, no change between our age and the new graduates, and they feel like 2 or 3 years in their job is too long, and
Mhm.
and uh, and that's a problem. They wanna grow fast. They wanna become managers and directors in like a handful of years. Um,
That's
and
interesting. Do you think there's a bit of impatience there then?
yeah, I think the dynamics of the exposure to technology and information, with AI, with ChatGPT, and everything is going on in the world, it makes things more accessible faster, and the cycle for talents becomes shorter. And that's what we're seeing, and that's where leadership plays into it. How you and culture, in particular. That's why a lot of companies they focus on culture. They're really doubling down on culture now with the 3 years of pandemic that kind of loosen up that culture a little bit, and they felt that on their top line or bottom line that the productivity is coming down a little bit. They want to just pick it up and tighten things up. So I think it's going to continue to become a challenge, but it's a good challenge. It's a good challenge for any leader to understand the importance of talents, how to attract them, how to retain them, and how to manage the team and lead the team into the future.
It does seem at the moment, though, that there is a bit of a global shortage of good people in procurement. How would you go about plugging that gap? And you just mentioned it there about retaining staff. How can procurement companies, do that?
I think I can speak to myself is really around making jobs more interesting to people and caring about people's career path. It's not just about you. I'm hiring you to develop to do the job. It's I'm hiring you because I look at you as an asset, and I look at you as a growing and evolving asset in my organization. And if you want to grow into another role later on, I will help you. If
Mm,
you want to grow into different business unit outside of procurement, I will help you as well, or outside the organization, even outside the company. That's fine. So there is a human connection that needs to be developed between leaders and their teams, a caring and genuine connection. And that's really what matters. At the end of the day, we're a part of not just our connection is not just tied to that role.
Mhm.
It's beyond that. And I think as talents, I like to attract talents from different parts of the business. It's not just like a procurement or finance professional. I've had project managers, I've had salespeople coming into procurement, I've had cost engineers and engineers coming into procurement, and they all stick there to a certain point for many years because they loved it and they made a career out of it. It's like, wow, I didn't know that
Mhm.
procurement was that cool. And for me, its success is by just making them feel that they belong and they can grow into the space. And if they chose to go outside of procurement later on, that's fine. They're armed with the procurement because I think procurement gives you a lot of perspective that you don't see in other areas. And then you can grow your job to whatever you want to do in the future.
What about technology and procurement now? We've just touched on a little bit about there's a younger generation coming through now, and maybe they're a little bit impatient. But do you think that you know because they're growing up with this technology, it's a lot easier to sort of leverage and embrace new technology because these potentially the leaders of tomorrow, they're growing up with it, so it's a lot easier to adopt.
Absolutely. I think yes, they have more appetite to learn and leverage technology, and learn more tricks. And I think at some point we're all gonna be technologists in order to operate. It's like the way we operate Microsoft Word document right now, or an Excel spreadsheet. That's how you gotta be able to operate the system, because systems are and technologies, they become more accessible. And now with like artificial intelligence, things are even getting much more easier and much more powerful. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the Chat GPT. I mean, it's amazing.
Mm,
Just write a sentence and it kind of
mm.
returns a whole research or a study or a response or analysis or even contract. so, so that's going to make a lot of lawyers uncomfortable.
I was going to say, what is its potential? What is ChatGPT's? What could it be? Is it? Do you think it's just the start of that next wave? Basically Web 3.0. What does it bring?
I think it brings the power of smart data, of how you leverage not just a process or a link to a website. It analyzes information and brings the best to you, and sometimes it takes action on it. So I've played with it a little bit with kind of throwing some problem solvings when it comes to contracts. It actually analyzes data, and based on what you've said or you provided before, it can create a very logical response. And
Mm,
it's actually impressive. You can build a lot of businesses around that, whether in customer support, in marketing, in procurement. Um, I think it's going to be transformational in
mm,
my view because now everybody is trying to build on that. And I know there has been some solution powering, leveraging AI and to a certain extent. And I think this is the time where we're transitioning or transforming procurement from being a process focus RPA using automation, the whole robotic process automation concept, to be data focused
mm.
using intelligent uh, algorithm to really crawl the data and get insights and take action on those insights. And remember that historically, data was untapped in a big way. Like 90 more than 90% of your data wasn't used. And now we get more access to deeper data, and we can leverage that data to our advantage to mitigate risk, to build relationship, to find savings for compliance. So there's so many opportunities that we can leverage that space into, and that's very interesting to a lot of young people, to a lot of
Mm.
professionals, and to customers and business and C levels.
It makes you almost think, how was it done before, doesn't it? Because technology is now so sort of influential in the industry. It makes you think, well, why didn't we always have this?
I think we didn't have this because I think there has been some hurdles. I would say it's a progressive aspect, right? I think we've done some strides, but it was very concentrated. See, technology adoption is a big thing. Internet became accessible because it became cheap and everybody can do it, like a utility. Search was accessible because Google opened up a search, or or other websites as well opened up a search to the common.
Mm,
Everybody was able to plug in a word and click search, and you'll get millions of records. So that gave a huge advantage to everybody to access information. YouTube
mm,
democratized video and learning. It's amazing. You can just have a PhD degree on YouTube. Like literally, you can learn any craft you want. I mean, I have no clue. When I started cooking, I have a 5 year old. I do cook myself because I learned on YouTube how to do it.
mm.
It's like literally, I had no idea how to cook, but you get better because you have
Yeah.
access to that information. So I think with the AI and ChatGPT Open AI, which is an open platform that everybody can access, you don't have to be an organization. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Now it's accessible. You're touching it. You experience it.
Mm,
You can explore the power of the platform. Then you want it, basically.
mm,
Right? It's a sales. It's a sales pitch, basically. You go and try that car, right? Electric car. You love it. That Tesla. You love how it feels. You love how it drives. You want it, right?
mm.
It's similar. It's now adoption is gonna be much faster, and that's why a lot of companies you'll hear and like you'll see a lot of companies now coming up with products on ChatGPT, because they want to ride that wave. They want to be part of that success journey.
But there are some people that fear that technology can take jobs away from humans. Are you one of those people that understands those concerns, or are you one of those people that thinks, well, actually, they're only going to free humans up to take on the more complex tasks? What sort of camp do you sit on?
Absolutely, I think the latter. I think that will position people to do more interesting work. And I always say you know, you have to transform your job every day. You have to find a better ways to do your job more efficiently and smartly, because that's going to help you first in growing as a person, get more access to information and decision making, and also keep up with the technology advancement, because nobody wants to do a mundane task of data entry where an RPA or an AI engine can do it in a second, and
Mm,
they can do it perfectly fine without being sick, without errors, without emissions, and like that. So there is no way we can compete with machine, and I think that's a wrong strategy.
mm,
You always want to use that emotional human intelligence to your advantage. And we have a big differentiator over computers. So we're not competing with computers.
mm.
Computers are working for us. That's the way we have to think about our jobs, is computers are trying to make our job easier so we can move to the next best thing.
I think it's about that, isn't it? It's about embracing the technology, not being scared of change. And change is such a massive sort of issue for some people, isn't it? In the industry, some people like that legacy way of doing it, the way that they always know. But change is nothing to be feared, is it?
Absolutely. And the biggest risk is for people that are stagnant, they don't want to evolve. That's really where those are the team members that we want to work with, and help them see the light so they can get outside of their comfort zone to places where they can evolve and remain relevant to the marketplace.
Mm. And what about the future of procurement? What do you feel that that looks like? And I know that's like the crystal ball moment. It's difficult to predict. But for you, what do you believe the future of procurement holds? Obviously, that'll be digital led. Um, but what do you feel like the true sort of potential of it and the future opportunities that there could be?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can tell you the way the industry is heading, procurement is becoming even more important in the center of business excellence. It's not anymore just about cost savings. Cost savings is going to happen no matter what. It's part of the DNA. They're going to be more of a strategic thinkers and business enablers. So you're thinking big, kind of big picture. You understand the market. You have ability to predict what's coming up, new trends. Whether it depends what industry you work in, whether products, forecasting, technology advancement, operational excellence. Obviously, there's always innovation in that space. Uh, Again, let's think about it. Whether it's a robotics or artificial intelligence, at the end of the day, those two systems they work out of algorithm, a program that was coded. So they're limited to the capability of that program based on the data that was provided to them. They're not going to go above and beyond.
Mm.
Um, the human brain can go way above and beyond, right? Because we have something called imagination. And I think that imagination is always that dimension that give us a competitive edge over everything else. And going back to your question, I think procurement is the future of procurement is going to be very interesting. The craft is going to transform into more business enablement, and there will be many branches for procurement in the future,
Mm.
not just restricted to procurement, sourcing, supply chain. Business enablement is going to be a big one. Transformational leadership is going to be another one. Thought leadership. What's the new thing, next best thing?
Mm.
There will be a lot of creativity and innovation in the space as well.
Some really exciting things happening in procurement, I think, isn't there? Um, what about, in another interesting topic? I wondered if, if COVID happened again tomorrow, so hopefully not, for everyone's sakes, do you think that procurement would be better equipped to deal with the disruption that we obviously had first time around? If it happened again, where would procurement sort of be in terms of dealing with it again?
I think so. I think COVID taught us a lot of lessons. Whether one is in supply chain, that we are so concentrated, and we've gone through this wave of going to specific countries because of labor advantage and manufacturing advantage, and then when things happen, we have disruption in how we move products between countries and continents. So we had a major supply chain issues. I think access to data and information is going to be a big advantage as to where things are, how we can engage with source of supplies, how we can move products, how we can have a more localized or regionalized supply chain. And that's the big lesson to be learned for the future. I think robotics will make it more affordable for companies to have a distributed supply chain. Uh, and in addition to working flexibility, which is a big plus. I mean, a lot of businesses got impacted because they don't know how to operate from anywhere or from home. They didn't have the right internet access, or gosh, I don't have a laptop for every employee,
A lot
or
of people, yeah, a lot of people didn't even have laptops, did they? They had desktop computers in their offices. They didn't have any
exactly,
ability to work from home.
exactly. And we saw that especially in our offshore offices, because usually the office internet accessibility is much more powerful than the utility in the residential areas. So I think with technology that can solve that as well. Having the right Wi-Fi, MiFi, etc. accessibility and working flexibly. I think we got ahead of that. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned. Also, technology from uh, a lot of company they went to the cloud from a brick and
Mm.
mortar perspective. You can order anything online today, anything, like any service, any product, grocery, food, clothing, anything. Except maybe daycare or schooling.
Still working on that one.
You still have to do self-performance, right? As a parent, you have to take care of that business.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that we will be in a better shape. Hopefully, it doesn't repeat again. and hopefully, whatever caused it to spread out, we have now the resources and the knowledge to stop it.
So the future of procurement's bright.
Yeah, it is bright. I think that's why I like the space, and I continue to be passionate about procurement because I think the future is very bright. It has that dimension of innovation into the future and coping with technology and advancement. And I'm excited about what the future is going to bring to the craft.
Lovely. I think that rounds us off nicely. Thank you very much for appearing on the CPO Strategy podcast, Fadi. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the CPO Strategy podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, make sure that you subscribe or like our social media pages so that you never miss an episode. I'll see you next time.